You probably know a lot of stories where some loser gets reborn and receives a second chance. But what if I told you that in this story, such a lucky person was actually the last dragon in the world killed by humans, reborn as a village child named Ray? He trains hard and enters the academy to reveal his power.
Dragons have always terrified human hearts with their raw destructive power. This endless fear sparked merciless hunting across the land, wiping out almost every single winged beast. Soon, only one legendary creature remained alive, dedicating his final breath to exact ultimate vengeance on the greedy human race that slaughtered his entire kind throughout history. Determined to erase the mighty beast once and for all, an overwhelming army of human warriors tracks the last terrifying red dragon straight to his hidden lair. A devastating battle explodes inside the cavern, as countless soldiers swarm the furious beast with blades and heavy magical attacks, desperate to claim the head of the ultimate monster. Despite unleashing catastrophic fiery fury against his enemies, the outnumbered dragon is brutally slain by the endless tide of warriors. As the cold darkness closes in around his fading consciousness, a mysterious soothing light unexpectedly approaches from the far distance, pulling his drifting soul into a strange warm vortex beyond the mortal realm. Reawakening from the eternal shadowy void, the mighty dragon looks up to inspect his new surroundings. Shockingly, his fresh vision clears to reveal a smiling human face staring warmly down at him, leaving the legendary beast completely horrified as a giant man cradles his helpless little body with endless affection and joyful tears. Panicking frantically inside his tiny mind, the confused creature flails his stubby limbs while searching for his colossal wings and sharp claws. Realizing his powerful body is completely gone, the furious baby dragon concentrates his internal mana, preparing to unleash his famous incinerating dragon breath to scorch this pathetic human standing directly over him. Gearing up to incinerate his target with ultimate fire magic, the tiny murder machine opens his mouth wide, instead of unleashing a scorching wave of deadly flames. The tiny baby simply blows out a wet burst of air, spraying sticky spit directly into his proud father's face while questioning where all his godlike dragon magic went. Staring helpless at his new loving family, a horrifying reality strikes the former monster to his core. He suddenly realizes that he has been reincarnated into the fragile body of a human baby named Ray, becoming the exact pathetic species he despises most, while his new mother softly soothes his scaly cheeks with affectionate smiles. Even though his new name feels insulting to a legendary beast, the clever little guy quickly accepts his bizarre situation, formulating a diabolical master plan from within his crib. The tiny dragon vows to use his new human life to rebuild his divine strength and eventually exterminate the entire human race from within the castle walls. Muttering baby death threats with his tiny cute voice, our vengeful dragon attempts to look terrifying to his parents. However, his pathetic baby stamina quickly betrays him, causing the exhausted little cub to drift straight into sleep while grumbling internally about the fragile endurance of human bodies compared to his former immortal dragon form. Growing up slightly over the following months, the former beast observes his new life among the peaceful village locals. His loving parents, Scarlet and Jake, look after him with endless kindness, while the neighboring villagers frequently praise his father's impressive sword skill, treating the happy young family with immense respect during their daily encounters. Crawling across the wooden floor to demand food from his mother, the clever baby instantly impresses the astonished villagers around him. They marvel at how aware the small boy is of his own needs, though they quickly notice his vibrant red hair, which strangely does not match either of his brown-haired parents at all. Suspecting his bright red hair signals the return of his ancient dragon power, the mischievous boy feels immense pride, deciding to unleash total chaos inside the household. The wicked little baby deliberately acts like a tiny terror, throwing wild tantrums and making absolute messes everywhere just to drive his loving parents entirely insane today. Escalating his chaotic antics, the ruthless baby aims carefully and peers straight into his poor father's open mouth while being held high, expecting explosive anger from the man. The baby dragon is thoroughly baffled as both parents simply laugh and cuddle him warmly, leaving the ancient monster completely bewildered by their boundless, unbreakable parental love. Learning that rare adventurers and mages command incredible status in this realm, the tiny dragon plans his eventual comeback. Upon turning 2 years old, every child receives a formal magic evaluation, bringing the excited former beast to his special assessment day where he expects to unlock his hidden divine powers, and shocked the entire world. Clinging tightly to his mother's loving arms inside a horse carriage, the young red-haired boy bids farewell to his father, as the wooden wheels roll smoothly down the dirt path. The confident little dragon ponders that his ancient beastly lineage and mage heritage will easily allow him to breeze through the upcoming magical evaluation test today. Arriving at the bustling central marketplace of town, the small boy stretches after his cozy nap inside the cart, observing high-ranking adventurers rudely kicking a helpless beggar away from their shop. The clever dragon reflects bitterly on human nature, witnessing how these selfish creatures constantly look down upon and ridicule the weaker ones without mercy. Recalling his past life where protecting weaker creatures was his sacred duty, the former dragon snaps out of his deep memories, reaching the Grand Wizard Academy at last. His mother carries him toward a massive waiting line filled with eager young children and anxious parents hoping to discover their hidden elemental talents this afternoon. Standing patiently in the long queue, the confident red-haired boy watches other children break into hysterical tears after failing the test. Listening to a crying kid complain about life being unfair, the cold dragon scoffs internally, knowing better than anyone that the mortal world has always been ruthless and completely unfair too. The weak, relaxing comfortably in his mother's arms as the line moves forward, the ancient dragon eagerly anticipates his grand turn. Suddenly, the old wizard calls out his official name, Talon, prompting the excited boy to step forward toward the glowing crystal ball while imagining how his massive dragon Manhwa will stun everyone in the room. Gleefully stretching his tiny hands outward, the confident dragon places his palms firmly against the smooth metallic crystal ball, expecting a blinding burst of divine dragon magic to illuminate the entire hall. He stands proudly before the audience, ready to prove his absolute superiority over every single human standing inside the academy today. Waiting eagerly for the orb to ignite, the young boy suddenly notices tears streaming down his mother's shocked face. Looking closely at the testing orb, he realizes with absolute horror that the crystal ball remains completely dark, prompting the old wizard to coldly announce that Talon possesses absolutely zero magical capability or aptitude. Freaking out internally over the devastating news, the ancient beast screams in his mind, refusing to accept that a supreme dragon could lack magic. His desperate mother asks the tester to recheck the orb, but the furious little boy takes matters into his own hands, angrily smacking the silent glass artifact with his tiny palms repeatedly. Spitting his pacifier across the floor in pure rage, the furious dragon boy decides that the lying wizard is hiding his true talent. Reaching out with his tiny hands, he aggressively grabs the old examiner's long white beard, yanking his facial hair with maniacal force while screaming hysterically and causing massive chaos in the hall. While his panicked mother desperately tries to restrain her wild child, the crazy dragon continues yanking the screaming wizard's mustache, eventually pulled away from the academy. The defeated boy sits quietly inside the returning horse cart, wondering if heaven is punishing his past sins or simply testing his ultimate resolve to conquer the world. Determined to execute his revenge without relying on magic, the ambitious boy formulates a brand new training path, sitting at the dinner table with his family. The small kid looks directly into his father's eyes, using broken baby sentences to firmly request that the skilled warrior teach him the deadly art of swordsmanship immediately. 2 years have quickly passed as our 4-year-old dragon boy practices swordsmanship under his father's strict supervision, having lost every single sparring match. Tightly grips his wooden blade and formulates a brilliant counterattack strategy, planning to swiftly pivot around his opponent's slash to strike Jake's open side at the exact perfect moment. 2 years have passed as Ray practices swordsmanship under his father's supervision. Having lost every match, Ray formulates a strategy to pivot around his opponent's slash. Executing his counter move, the former beast struggles as his clumsy toddler limbs fail to cooperate with his dragon instincts, causing Ray's legs to entangle awkwardly, making him stumble completely today. Attempting to recover his footing mid-fall, the helpless boy looks up just in time to see his father's wooden weapon coming down hard. The heavy wooden sword strikes straight at his forehead with a thunderous smack around 12 seconds into the interval, instantly knocking the poor kid out cold and making him wonder why his weak body dragging down. Waking up softly inside his bedroom after blacking out from the brutal head hit, the sore boy sees his father chuckling nearby right as the scene opens, seeing her husband laugh so casually. Scarlet furiously yells at Jake for pushing their 4-year-old child way too hard, firmly reminding him that the intense night entrance trials are rapidly approaching soon. While his parents argue back and forth about whether Ray should become an adventurer or pursue an ordinary job, the former dragon gets annoyed by their endless chatter, raising his voice midway through their heated argument. The confident kid suddenly speaks up and assures his parents that he will easily become the absolute strongest warrior anyone has ever seen. Thrilled by his son's passionate declaration during their intense family discussion, Jake decides that it is finally time to take their daily training routine to a whole new level. He hints at a grand surprise, making the ambitious boy eagerly wonder what kind of special weapon or advanced technique his skilled swordsman father is about to show him today. Presenting a heavy wrap package right as the moment begins, Jake hands Ray a real sharp steel sword, completely astonishing the small kid who tightly grips the massive blade. Following his father down the quiet storage hallway near the end of their walk, Jake grins broadly and reveals an unexpected magical training gift waiting inside the back room. Stepping into the dimly lit room, Ray stares suspiciously at a giant magical training puppet standing before him midway through their inspection. Jake explains that elite academy students use these advanced enchanted constructs to train apprentices, challenging his confident son to attack the dummy with full power to see if he can handle its automated defensive counterattacks today. Warming up his wrist with a confident smirk, the former dragon accepts his father's intense training challenge without hesitation, raising his heavy steel sword with both hands. Ray charges forward with full strength 12 seconds into the session, striking the training puppet's shield, which immediately triggers level 1 activation as the construct awakens to defend itself. The moment his blade collides with the wooden shield, the automated puppet counters with lightning speed, executing a swift retaliatory strike midway through the clash. The enchanted construct knocks the heavy steel sword completely out of Ray's small hands, sending the blade flying across the room and leaving the defeated boy thoroughly disgruntled by his embarrassing loss. Encouraged by his father to keep practicing, the scene shifts outdoors where a tired boy swings his blade repeatedly near the mountains. Exhausted and panting heavily on the ground midway through his workout, Ray lets out a deep, frustrated sigh, bitterly complaining about how his sluggish human limbs fail to execute high-speed movements generated inside his brain. Ruminating that he will never achieve his ultimate revenge against humanity if he cannot even conquer a basic training dummy, Ray continues swinging his heavy sword alone. He focuses on improving his reflexes under the afternoon sun, desperate to reclaim his ancient beastly dominance before the impending Night Academy trials begin next year in this fragile human form. Deeply absorbed in his intense training session, a sudden voice echoes unexpectedly from the trees behind him midway through his practice, surprised by the intrusion. The flustered boy quickly turns around with his sword raised, catching a glimpse of a curious young girl sneaking through the bushes to observe his solitary sword practice high up in the mountains. Apologizing gently for startling the red-haired boy right after stepping out, the pretty blonde girl introduces herself as Amy from the local village. She explains that she noticed him practicing alone near the dangerous forest and wanted to kindly remind him to head back down the mountain before sundown, since magical beasts roam after dark in this area. Surprised by how much knowledge the young girl possesses about the mountain territory, Ray listens attentively as Amy explains her daily routine harvesting wild vegetables nearby, offering to walk down the trail together before twilight falls. She reveals that everyone in the village already knows his name because his talented father is a famous hero in their region. Walking down the dirt path alongside Amy, the red-haired boy reflects bitterly on his terrible reputation back home midway through their stroll. He recalls how the superstitious villagers always gossip behind his back, claiming his unusual red hair is an infectious curse, fearing the ancient beastly aura while using terrifying dragon legends to frighten their innocent children every evening. Reflecting on how greedy humans slaughtered his dragon kind while hypocritically labeling dragons as evil monsters, Ray feels intense hatred rising inside his chest. He justifies his desire for ultimate revenge, knowing his ancient race only fought to protect themselves against human brutality. Before Amy snaps him back to reality with a friendly question about his future plans. Following Amy down the mountain trail, reaching the bottom of the path, heavy footsteps echo nearby as her arrogant brother Gary appears with his bully friends, rudely shoving Ray away while harshly warning his sister to stay far away from the cursed boy. Protectively stepping in front of Ray, Amy angrily scolds her brother for his extremely rude behavior toward her new friend. However, Gary ignores her completely and inspects her hair to check if the supposed curse infected her. While his two arrogant friends step forward to mock Ray's famous adventurer parents for raising a pathetic cursed monster in town, the arrogant bullies continue humiliating the red-haired boy, telling him that lowly civilians want nothing to do with cursed family members like him. They rudely suggest that his entire family should pack up and leave the village forever, claiming high and mighty adventurers have no right to look down upon normal hard-working villagers. In this peaceful regional farming community, clenching his small fists in absolute rage after hearing his loving parents insulted, Ray snaps completely midway through their speech, charging forward with explosive physical force. He lands a devastating punch straight into a bully's face, instantly throwing a second brutal strike at Gary, which the larger boy barely manages to block with his heavy metallic arm guard. Blown backward by the sheer kinetic impact of Ray's powerful strike, Gary looks at the small boy in complete shock, recognizing that Ray Talon was trained by a master swordsman. The arrogant older boy recovers his composure and formally challenges the red-haired kid to an bare-knuckle brawl, arrogantly tossing his weapon aside to avoid killing him today. Tossing his own heavy steel blade onto the dirt path near the end of their tense standoff, Ray cold-heartedly tells the bullies that they can all attack him together at once. With no weapons between them, the intense fistfight erupts instantly, as both furious boys trade heavy punches while Ray relies on his raw dragon instincts to fight. Despite unleashing brutal strikes against his opponent, Ray's fragile toddler body eventually reaches its physical limit during the intense brawl, taking a heavy direct punch to the face from the larger boy. The red-haired kid gets sent flying through the air before crashing hard onto the dirt, covered in deep bruises and bleeding profusely from his nose. Collapsing onto the dusty ground in complete exhaustion midway through the encounter, the battered dragon boy lies bleeding while Gary stands over him boasting about his victory. The arrogant bully mocks Ray's famous father, calling the legendary swordsman useless for raising such a weak kid, urging the fallen boy to abandon his dreams of entering the academy forever. Ignoring the piercing insults echoing through his mind near the end of the brawl, Ray stubbornly pulls his bloody body off the dirt ground, refusing to accept defeat. Watching the battered kid stand back up with terrifying glare in his eyes, Gary feels an uncomfortable shiver down his spine, quickly turning around to leave while hurling final arrogant remarks. Storming back home in pure frustration midway through the evening, Amy angrily screams at her older brother for overreacting and brutally beating a small toddler. Refusing to cook dinner for her mean brother tonight, she storms off to her bedroom, while Gary sits quietly near the table justifying his actions by claiming he protected her from the cursed boy. Looking down at his trembling arm while unstrapping his thick armor, Gary freezes in horror, staring at the massive dent crushed into the solid iron plate. He suddenly realizes that without that protective gear during their brutal fight, Ray's raw monstrous strength would have easily shattered his arm bone and one completely. Covered in mud and facial scars, our red-haired boy returns home quietly while his mother cooks dinner, turning around to inspect her bloody toddler. Scarlet gets deeply worried by his exhausted condition, questioning his late arrival and instantly knowing her stubborn son got into a violent street fight with other local children today. Falsely claiming his facial injuries came from intense practice, Ray insists he is a real man now to act tough before his parents, entering the dark storage barn shortly afterward. The stubborn boy activates the magical puppet to level 1, confidently dodging its automated attacks since he already understands its basic defensive movement patterns very well from previous sparring. Delivering a final decisive sword strike toward an open spot, Ray's heavy blade gets wedged firmly into a solid wooden pillar, while he desperately tries pulling out the correct weapon. The automated puppet smacks him hard from behind, making the poor boy scream loudly before the scene shifts outdoors to the sunny mountain path. Early the next morning, walking up the quiet mountain trail with fresh bruises all over his face, our red-haired boy suddenly spots young Amy standing at a distance, looking slightly embarrassed to meet him again after yesterday's violent street fight. The gentle blonde girl greets Ray timidly as he asks if she was waiting around the woods for him to practice today. Apologizing sincerely on behalf of her extremely rude older brother, Amy expresses her deepest regrets for the fight yesterday, accepting her apology by grabbing a fresh red apple from her basket. Ray feels annoyed by complex human relationships while the soft-hearted blonde girl suddenly bursts into emotional tears, making our former dragon feel completely overwhelmed by her loud crying. Comforting the crying girl softly, our former red dragon realizes he must learn basic human socialization skills to fit in better. From that specific day onwards, the friendly blonde girl regularly meets him at the quiet mountain training spot every single afternoon. And our dragon boy quickly grows accustomed to having Amy by his side during his daily practice. Time passes swiftly as high-ranking armored soldiers riding big horses surround the Talon family residence entrance. The military officer informs Jake and Scarlet about anonymous mystery creature attacks on nearby villages, urgently requesting the legendary adventurer's immediate assistance to investigate traumatized victims who remain far too disoriented to explain what happened to them out there in the woods. Time passes swiftly as armored soldiers riding big horses surround the Talon family residence entrance. The military officer informs Jake and Scarlet about anonymous mystery creature attacks on nearby villages, urgently requesting the legendary adventurer's immediate assistance to investigate victims who remain far too disoriented to explain what happened to them out there in the woods. Panting heavily outdoors near the mountain forest, Ray continues practicing his sword slashes alone under the bright sun, trying to coordinate his sluggish toddler limbs smoothly. He glances behind him at Amy reading a book, feeling his heart rate spike surprisingly before slapping his own face with full force to snap out of it immediately today. Walking toward the blonde girl as sunset approaches, Ray informs her that practice ends early today. Reading her book so intently, Amy realizes how late it has gotten. And both children trudge down the mountain path while discussing silly village rumors regarding his supposed red hair curse that frightens local kids in their small farming community. Reassuring him that his unique red hair looks cool rather than scary, Amy encourages Ray to simply be himself no matter what. Her wise words spark a sudden deep realization inside his mind, making him smile excitedly, thank her warmly, and wave goodbye before rushing back home to test out a brand new training idea today. Rushing back to the dark storage barn with newfound inspiration, Ray immediately activates the training puppet to level 1, holding his sharp steel sword firmly in his mouth. The ambitious kid drops down onto all fours, preparing to unleash an unconventional combat strategy heavily inspired by the helpful advice Amy gave him on the mountain trail earlier. Reverting to his ancient primal dragon instincts, Ray maneuvers on all four limbs like an agile wild beast, utilizing his entire body structure for maximum flexibility. His movement speed increases dramatically as he darts around the dummy's heavy shield with lightning-fast reflexes, keeping his mechanical opponent completely off balance during their intense sparring match today. Spotting an open weakness in the machine's automated defense, Ray lunges forward with beastly momentum, striking the wooden dummy with full physical power. He successfully passes level 1, completely overwhelming its automated counterattacks with his restored feral agility today, proving his beastly training method actually works in his current human toddler form without relying on magic. Pumping his fist with wild excitement over his triumphant victory, the former dragon celebrates breaking his personal limits. Knowing he can easily pass the upcoming Knight Academy entrance exam now, he pushes his physical capabilities further by boldly activating level 2 on the training puppet to test how much stronger he can become before nightfall arrives. Early the next morning inside the cozy house, Ray wakes up and finds his father fully equipped for his recon mission, bidding his small son farewell. Jake advises Ray to practice hard on the puppet while he is away, promising to return home safely before the Knight Academy entrance exam begins next year in town. Waving goodbye to his departing father, Ray smiles proudly, planning to surprise Jake with his complete mastery over the puppet upon his return home. Excitedly heading up the mountain trail to resume his daily practice routine, he credits Amy's helpful advice for finally solving his body coordination issues and improving his blade speed immensely today. Climbing higher along the familiar mountain woods, Ray glances around the quiet trees, curious why Amy has not shown up yet today, shrugging off his growing impatience. The former red dragon reminds himself not to let fragile human emotions distract his sharp focus from becoming the absolute strongest warrior in the entire kingdom before winter comes. Scanning the empty forest trail again, Ray wonders if Amy got held up by farm chores in the village today, shrugging off his disappointment. Our red-haired boy decides to focus entirely on his solitary training, swinging his heavy steel sword repeatedly until his arms ache and his small human body completely runs out of physical energy. Training rigorously until afternoon sun fades away, the exhausted boy accidentally falls asleep on the soft grass. realizing how late it has gotten and sprinting down the mountain path as fast as possible to avoid getting scolded by his worried mother. Arriving near the village center under the dark evening sky, Harry encounters a panicked crowd gathered by the shop. Worried parents and local villagers gather together in chaotic confusion, desperately organizing emergency search parties to locate for young children who mysteriously vanished deep inside the dangerous mountain forest earlier this morning without leaving any clear trace behind. Listening to the frantic chatter, Ray overhears that Gary's stupid gang bought sharp weapons this morning to hunt magical beasts deep inside the dark woods, while their terrified parents weep uncontrollably. The old blacksmith contacts village guards to begin a night search operation immediately, warning everyone about deadly magical creatures roaming the trees after dark. Initially unbothered by Gary's foolish fate, Ray turns around to head home, viewing short human lifespans as brief and meaningless affairs. However, a sudden vivid memory of Amy's gentle smile flashes through his mind, making him realize with horror that his innocent blonde friend might be trapped in mortal danger, along with her foolish older brother. Determined to save his innocent friend, Ray dashes into the pitch-black woods alone without telling any villagers, sprinting through foggy trees. His eyes widen as he discovers bloody carcasses of slain magical beasts scattered endlessly across the forest floor, proving a violent high-level battle took place here recently between desperate children and deadly wild monsters. Deep inside the dark woods, Gary bravely stands over his sobbing sister, shielding her from impending doom, brandishing his sharp sword with trembling bloody hands. The brave older brother commands Amy to hide behind a giant rock while facing off against a massive, terrifying dire wolf that snarls viciously before leaping forward to kill them both.